Hi friend, it's Hunter from Interactive, and in today's video we're going to take a look at how to create randomized image textures all within Blender. Now you may be familiar with how to do this with colors. However, I recently come across when I was making this project as some testing, I wanted to randomize the image textures as well as the color. And so I was able to do that with a setup inside the shader editor, and it's a little bit complicated to work out, so I'm going to try and explain it as simple as possible. If you're interested in product visualization, our Blender course is the perfect place to start. Learn how to create impressive product CGI that looks professional and realistic. With lifetime access to updates and new courses, you'll have endless opportunities to grow and refine your skills. Enroll now and take the first step towards becoming a pro in product visualization. So to begin with, let's jump over to our shader editor. I'm going to select our object. The first thing to notice is that this already has a material. We'll create our own. We won't go as far to completing this, but I'll explain how this all works. The second thing is this is an array. So basically what an array does is takes a single object and it duplicates it, which in this case it's all done in geometry nodes. But basically what's happening is it's duplicating this object here, and it all has the exact same properties, and it's considered an instance of the original object. So if we go Shift A and add in a cube, we can create an instance by going Alt and D to duplicate. And so now this object here is the original object. This is an instant of the original object. So if we edit the original object, the instance will be edited as well. And so we need the instances only because we need to use this information inside our shader editor. So let's go over to our shading. Let's select our keys here. And you'll see quite a complicated setup here. We're not going to build the full thing here because this has other textures in here like metals and things like that. But basically we've got two things going on. We've got our masks here, and we've got a random texture here. So this is a group, and this is what we're going to be setting up today to generate the random colors. And so what you'll notice is that we have only got two colors, and we can control this. So I can say I want 3 random colors, and that'll go for the same as this image texture here. It'll be the same. We can edit that. So what I'm going to do is start by duplicating this. I'm going to start afresh, so we'll select all, delete, and then what we'll do is we'll go and add in a material output. This is what outputs the material. Let's zoom in a bit and we'll keep it nice and big for you guys to see. We'll click on the surface and drag, and then we can type in a principled BSDF. So then we get something like this. So this is good because we've got a base color here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in a color ramp just to start explaining how this will work. So I've got the wrong spelling. Ramp color. And then what we can do from here is you'll notice that right now it's not really outputting a value. So it's basically outputting a value of 0.5, so the center value in between here, onto every instance that we have. So what we can do is add in a new node, and this node will grab some information from our objects. So this is called the object info node, and we will want it to be plugged into the random output. So now what's happening is it's grabbing the selected object that we've got, then it's recognized that this has got lots of instances, it's got lots of different versions of it. So I'm going to randomly output a different value between 0 and 1 for each object. So each object has a different value here. So let's say this will output a value of 0.5. And so basically 0.5 is like gray, it'll be in the center here. And so then this object, say this one gets 0.5, but this value here's got 0, so it'll generate a color of 0. So you also notice that in our colors we also have, or here the position slider, we have a value. And so if this outputs a 0.5 value, then what is happening is that if it outputs 0.5 and say this object here is going to be a 0.5, it will make it black. And say this one is going to be an output value of 1, it's going to make it white. And so we can see this a little bit better if we change this from, let's change it to constant. And what constant does is keeps this color all the way to the next stop. Something like that. And I might just pull up some colors here that I've grabbed. Let's grab an eyedropper. Let's add those in. So you can do that by just grabbing the eyedropper, holding down the Option or Alt key, and just dragging across all those colors, and it will add them in there. So now I'm going to unplug this, and I'm going to go and drag this out, and we'll just search for a value. So now we can control the value that we output. So let's put a 0.5 in here. So you can see if this is a 0.5, it's going to be sitting right in the center here. And so it'll be generating a pink color. But if we generate, say, 0.8, and we can check this value here is 0.92, this value is 0.66, so it'll be generating somewhere in here. If I move this below, I've added too many, but if I move this below 0.8, you'll see the colors switch. So this is what's good about the random. We can randomize this and it will recognize that this has got lots of instances and generate a different value for each one of the instance, which means each key will get a different color. So now we want to build on this. Now what happens here is we can't actually input image textures. So if I have an image texture, so I've got one here that I want to add on, this one here, if I want to add that to this, I can't really do it. I've got no way to put in an image in each one of these stops. So we have to create a new node setup using just the object info. So let's delete this. We're going to pull this over here. And we're going to start using some nodes that can be a little bit confusing. Blender uses a lot of maths when you start getting into this stuff, but hopefully I can explain it so that you can understand it. So the first node we're going to need is a multiply node. So Shift A, we can press S to search. Now multiply will be under math, so it's under a math node. And then what we can do is switch this to multiply. Now, to begin with, what I'm going to do is we'll plug this back into a color ramp. We'll do what we did before with our colors. So we'll bring this up. Bring that up. And we'll plug this in here. And then we'll plug this, let's actually just connect this straight to the end. So right now it's multiplying 0.5 by 0.5. So we can actually do this on a calculator if we wanted to. 0.5 times 0.5 equals 0.25. So then it's going to be generating a value in here, orange. And so we can see that already. If we go a value of 1 times 0.5, it's going to generate a value of 0.5. And so you can see we're using a little bit of maths already to do this. And so we can plug the random in here and it will generate a random value and multiply it by 0.5. So with this setup right here, because it can only generate up to a value of 1, if we multiply 1 by 0.5, it's never going to go over 0.5. Now what we can do is duplicate this node here. We're going to use a new node. We're going to unplug the value here. Now we're going to click on the multiply, go over to snap. Now what snap allows us to do is input a value here. So if we put in 6, and it will snap it to an increment of 0.5 or whatever we set here. And so if we have a look at what's going on here by plugging it into the color ramp, you'll notice that something's going on. Even though it's snapping to the lower increment. So what's happening is 0.99 is going to 0.5. So you can see here that it's going to 0.5 on a value here because it's pink. And so if we do the same thing, we put in 0.45, it's going to snap it to the lowest increment of whatever this is. So if it's in increments of 0.5, it's going to be, we're going to have a value of 1, and then we'll have a value of 0.5, and then we'll have a value of 1. This one will actually be, let's get our razor out. This one will actually be 0. So it's going to be value of 0. So if we have a value of 0.45, it's going to sit in somewhere here, 0.45. And then what's going to do is snap down. So it's going to snap down to the increment below it. So it's going to go to 0, which is the yellow here. So what can we do? Well, we can set this to a value of 1 if we would like, which we're going to do later. But for now, what I'm going to do is just quickly plug this in. We'll plug this in here. And so what's happening now is we've got a random value. So let's just generate a random value, 0.58. And so we've got an increment of, let's say, yeah, let's put an increment of 1. We'll keep it 0.5, and then we'll put in a value of like 0.6. It's going to snap to 0.5, and then it's going to multiply it by 0.58. So then what we can do is go in here. We can go a value of 0.5 because it's snapped to it, times 0.58, and so we get a value of 0.29, which will be somewhere in here. This is 0.1, so it'll be in here somewhere. If we move that past 0.29, you'll see that it'll switch colors. So how can we actually use this? So if I move this across, we can add in some more nodes in here. We're going to add in another math node. We'll just duplicate this. And I'm going to also add in a mix color node here. We're going to deselect that. Let's get rid of this. Let's just Control Shift click this. All right, so now what's happening? Well, we've got a multiply by multiply, and then this should be plugged into factor. Now this is not quite set up yet, so let's mix the color. And we've got two colors, so let's make this one green and this one orange. Now not much is happening yet because it's just multiplying values all together. So what we can do now is we can go add in a less than. And so now what I'm going to do is we're going to come in here. And so now what's happening? Well, we've got a value of 0.6. It's been snapped down to 0.5. It's multiplied by 0.58, which we had our value here, 0.29. And then it's saying, well, if it's less than 0.29, yes, it is, then place it into B and output the B color here out to the result. But if it's greater than, it'll output A. So what we can do is we can go 0.1, it's going to output A because 0.29 from this calculation is greater than 0.1 here, and so it's going to output A. So we can utilize this and we can duplicate these and stack these. So let's add 2. We're going to make some new colors. Let's go like this. Ink. And so now we're going to start setting it up. So in here, we always have a random value. We're going to set this to an increment of 1. So this value will most likely snap down. So that'll be 0 times 0, which will be less than, so it'll output B. But if we put in a value, say 2, it's going to snap to the increment. It's going to be 2.58, which is greater than, so it'll output A. Let's say 1, and let's calculate this. So we're going to go 2 times 0.58 equals 1.16, which 1.16 is greater than this value. Now we can also output this into multiple values. So we can say here, all right, let's put in a value of 2 here. And then now if we Control Shift click this one, we had that value 1.16. Let's feed it through here. So now what is happening? It's saying, well, it is less than, so let's output B. Now what can we do? We can actually plug this result into slot A and then connect this here. So now what's happening? Well, we've got a value of 1.16 based off our, let's quickly come back, based off our calculation here. And so now what's happening is it's going, all right, 1.16 less than, it isn't less than this. So then output slot A. And so then it's outputting slot A, which if we go back and follow slot A, comes to this calculation. So then this is saying, all right, we've got that value here, 1.16. It's plugged in here. Is it less than? Yes. All right, let's output color B. So it's outputting color B. This is saying result into slot A. This is saying, all right, let's do slot A, and then it's outputting. So we can stack these with as many colors as we would like. So now we can actually pick a random value and we can start stacking these. So I'm going to go with 6 values here, something like this, and then we'll quickly show you how it's working. Let's connect this all into A like so. Now we want to connect all this into the top value. And now what we want to do is go 6, because we've got 6 slots. Now we need to increase these numbers. So we've got 1, 2, threshold of 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm just going to quickly unplug the random. And let's say it generated a random value of 1. So now it's going to go 6 times 1 equals 6. So then we come up here. Is 6 greater than 1? Yes. So output slot A. Then it comes here. Is 6 greater than 2? Yes. And it will go all the way down. Is 6 greater than all these values? Until finally it comes to here. Is 6 less than? And then it will output slot A and feed it all the way back up here to the result. So I'd recommend playing around with this a little bit so that you can get the hang of it. It can be a little bit confusing. So I'll plug that into the color. Now we can actually group this, so we can select all this and go Control G, group it. And now we have this other one. Let's plug the random back in here. So it's randomized. Now we have this group output. We're going to plug the value into here. And now we can press N and come down to our group tab here. And we'll call this random amount or something like that. And then also what we can do is plug all the colors into this slot. So we can go color 1. And then we can rename all this. And then to get out of your group, you can tab, and now we've got this set up here. So now we can say, all right, I want to randomize this. I want 6 different random values, and then we can randomize the color by 6 different random values. And then we can also limit this, so I only want 3, so it'll pick the top 3. Now we also have control over this, because now we've got what the color ramp didn't have, which is this here, which is the image. We can plug an image into this. So let's come here and grab mask 1. And let's come here and grab image 2. Color. Let's grab this guy, image 2, and so now we've got 3 different variations because I've set it to 3, so let's set it back to 2. And we've got value 1 is image 1, and we've got image 2 as well, outputting. So it's a really clever way to do this, and we can duplicate this and mix the shaders and all sorts like I had before. And it's a really cool way to create a randomized texture. Can be a little bit complicated. I would recommend watching this a few times to help you understand it. However, it can be really handy, especially for stuff that you're going to do with geometry nodes, which I've done here, to randomize it and make it a little bit easier for you to render this stuff. Alright, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.